You know, it's really interesting how tiny habits done over time can change your body so much more than just like one major change done at once. Because at least in the moment for me, when I'm making that change, it doesn't seem like something super significant or life changing. But then I do it over and over and over, and my body completely transforms when I look back like a year later. And then I'm like, wow, I'm so glad I did that thing. So it's been about 6 years since I last shared my 10 healthy habits that changed my life. And there has been quite a bit that has happened since then. I became a mom of 2 babies. My life has changed a lot, and I've had a lot of additional healthy habits that have just totally transformed my life. So today I wanted to share those 10 new healthy habits that have changed my life, my body, my anxiety, and overall just wellness. Let's dive into it. My name's Autumn. I'm a certified clinical nutritionist with my master's in nutrition human performance. On my channel, I share the science-backed and delicious information to help you achieve your weight loss and wellness dreams without counting calories. So if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. Also, today's video is sponsored by Kettle and Fire, but more on them in a bit. Okay, I want to get this first one out of the way because I need to take it off, but it is my step tracker, and wearing a step tracker every single day. I'm going to take it off now so that me talking and waving my hands doesn't give me extra steps that I didn't deserve. But I started wearing a step tracker after college once I started more of like a sit down desk job. But even then, having a step tracker absolutely has just changed my wellness life because it gave me data that I didn't have before. So some of my favorite things about having a fitness tracker, I use the Fitbit. I'll have the one I use linked down description below if you want to check it out. But especially when I first started wearing Fitbit, it wasn't just the steps that helped keep me more active, but it was also the data on sleep that was so useful for me. I don't wear it to sleep so much anymore, but in the beginning, I would wear it to bed religiously to see how much deep sleep, how much REM sleep, how much light sleep I was getting. And it made me realize that I really was not getting as much sleep as I thought, and that I had to go to bed a lot earlier in order to actually get enough sleep to feel rested for the next day. And especially with my history of anxiety, getting more sleep was a really big thing for helping to reduce my anxiety levels and feel better. Plus, it also helped me to recover better from my workouts, and I just felt better because I was getting better sleep. Okay, just had to fill up my coffee. Perfect. Okay, the second major healthy habit was eating better protein sources. Now, back in 2018, when I first made that healthy habits video, I was eating a lot more protein from things like beans, which that can contribute a bit, although it is not nearly as high quality. So as a result, I just was not seeing the benefits of eating more protein that I really should have been seeing. Like, I don't know if you guys have revisited some of those videos early on, but I used to get like breakouts a lot right here. And I was also just really, really skinny. Like, I wasn't seeing the result of getting some tone, some muscle from my workouts. And it's because I just wasn't eating high quality protein to actually like recover and feel great and get the skin health benefits. And that was like one of the most frustrating things. I felt like I was eating so well, but I was just like always breaking out right here, which is so annoying. Now I still do eat things like beans and chickpeas and lentils, but I make sure to balance it with other really high quality sources of protein like beef and chicken and tuna and cottage cheese and Greek yogurt. And as a result, I've seen my body completely transform. I'm actually seeing the benefits from my workouts. I'm recovering so well. And I feel like I actually look more fit now postpartum after having 2 babies than I did when I was like 25. And although I am sleep deprived right now from having a newborn, I feel like my skin looks a lot better too. Okay, the third thing is using a specific type of intermittent fasting called eTRF. This is again something that I didn't really implement until after that 2018 video. I was breaking my fast using intermittent fasting for healing my gut, and I was breaking my fast around like 10:30, 11, sometimes even 12. Because if you've used intermittent fasting, then you know that especially when you've been using it for a while, it's really easy to just keep pushing when you break your fast and eat later and later and later in the day. That actually hasn't been shown to have like the best benefits, especially for intermittent fasting. The best benefits for balancing hormones, for balancing your circadian rhythm, for helping to lower cortisol levels in the evening and get better sleep, and also to see better of the body recomposition or fat loss results. eTRF, or early time restricted feeding, tends to do so much better, and I am definitely one of those people. So I first started off by having my break fast around like 10 or 10:30, and that was still considered like earlier for me. But then I think it was either I can't remember. I think it was after having or during, no, it was during my pregnancy with Jack, my second baby, when I really started to eat a lot earlier. So our meals all shifted to earlier in the day. Rather than eating dinner at like 7 or 7:30, we're eating dinner at like 5 now. And then we're also eating breakfast or our first meal at like 8. So our meals have shifted to earlier in the day to use more of that eTRF. And even though, again, we aren't getting great sleep right now because of newborn phase, I have noticed it seems like things are more balanced. Like I am feeling more energized in the morning, but then I'm also able to wind down a lot easier at night. Okay, but speaking of the morning, the fourth thing is having a morning workout. So back when I first started my fitness journey, it was in high school. I was always really active. I did sports, but I never really worked out. It wasn't until senior year when I wanted to train for a triathlon that I started doing things like running and swimming in a strategic pattern. And then I would also start doing some light strength training or resistance training, but it was always later in the day, especially back then because I was in school. It would be after school, so 3 p.m. or so. But then as I became an adult with a career and not being able to work out in the middle of the day, I started to shift my workouts to first thing in the morning. So this means working out in a completely fasted state, having just water, not even coffee. And at first, the transition was hard. I'm not going to lie. It can feel like you're forcing yourself to have energy first thing in the morning when you normally are trying to just get your body ready for the day. I don't know. Speaking of, but once I actually started to have this as part of my routine where I was working out first thing in the morning, I felt so much better. I noticed that I felt so much more productive throughout the day. My energy levels were really high throughout the day, and I was feeling properly wiped out by the evening, where I felt actually tired by the end of the day and I could get high quality sleep, which I actually just recently came across a study that really confirmed this, showing that working out and moving your muscles first thing in the morning helps to contribute to balancing out your circadian rhythm and makes it so that you can have more energy during the day, but then also actually get tired at night. Even with newborn phase right now with Jack, who will be 11 weeks on Friday, I also notice that when I'm running on zero sleep, if I can at least go outside for a walk first thing in the morning before I do anything, before I eat, before I have coffee, before any of that, I actually feel like a human again. And before we move on to number 5, I want to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, Kettle and Fire. Kettle and Fire is my favorite bone broth company. They're super high quality soup bone broth pun. But especially as a mom, I just don't have spare time anymore. I don't know what people mean when they say that going from 1 kid to 2 kids is easier than 0 to 1. I have to disagree. You have so much less time, which means I also have to be so much more strategic with my time. And although I know how to make bone broth and I know all the benefits of bone broth and that I should be incorporating it into my diet more consistently, it's just not realistic for me to be making bone broth every week right now. So that's where I love having Kettle and Fire just in my pantry so that I can add a high quality bone broth that's rich in collagen into pretty much any meal. We put it in our chilies, our soups, and various sauces to sneak in a high quality source of bone broth and collagen, because Kettle and Fire also slowly simmers bones from grass-fed cows in order to get as much collagen out as possible. Plus, Kettle and Fire tastes great. It helps to amplify the recipes that I'm using and make them taste even better. My all-time favorite flavor is their original chicken bone broth. I just feel like it goes with pretty much everything, but they also have a lot of other delicious flavors that you can just sip on their own. They have this turmeric one or this mushroom flavored one, so tasty. And Kettle and Fire is super generous, and they're offering my community 20% off your bone broth purchase when you use code AUTUMNBAITS at checkout. So make sure you stock up. Another bone broth pun. I'll have the link and the discount information down in the description below. Okay, the 5th thing that has absolutely changed my life is eating more dairy. Now, you guys might have seen my video where I shared how I have absolutely ruined my teeth for life. There is just really no coming back at this point. If you haven't seen that video, check it out right here because you want to make sure you avoid the mistakes I did. And unfortunately, one of the main reasons why I ruined my teeth early on is because I just didn't grow up eating dairy products. And dairy products, especially fermented dairy products, are so rich in things that help to keep your bones, your teeth, and even your heart really healthy. They contain calcium and vitamin K2, both things that are pretty hard to find in bioavailable sources from other foods. Those two things work together to actually help get calcium out of the arteries and into your bones and your teeth, which is where my teeth really suffered because I didn't have that vitamin K2 and probably not nearly enough calcium. However, I have noticed that ever since I started to eat more dairy, which that was a slow reintroduction because after years of not really eating dairy, my gut was not happy with it. But after I slowly reintroduced it and had things like fermented dairy and Greek yogurt and cottage cheese, and now even just regular whole milk, not only does it add a ton of versatility to my meals, but I've noticed that I'm not having as many issues when I go to the dentist, way less bills covering all of my cavities. Okay, for the 6th one, I need to go grab it. Shout out to all my moms out there who also have this exact same water bottle, but it is life-changing. So number 6 is having a absolutely massive water bottle, especially one with a straw. It makes a huge difference. And I was kind of a hater at first. Like, I thought this wasn't going to be really user friendly, especially because having the straw makes it so that you have to always have it standing up. And that can be problematic sometimes, especially when traveling. But this has been a game changer for keeping me hydrated, especially now when I'm breastfeeding for like 2 years straight and having to drink so much water. Because here's the thing, when you're busy, it is very easy to forget to drink water. Even the simple act of going to physically fill up a glass of water can be that much of a barrier to prevent me, at least, from drinking more water. So what I found with having a big bottle of water like this one, which is like that classic Stanley water bottle, so basic. But what I have found with having this larger 40-ounce water is that it does actually help me to stay on track with drinking more water, because now I only need to fill it up like 1 or 2 times a day and I'm getting so much water. Plus, having the straw makes it so that I'm able to easily like just take a sip of it versus, again, just another small barrier of having to unscrew a cap and take a sip of water. All these things seem so minor and seems like it shouldn't stop you from drinking more water, but let me tell you, like, they really do add up when you're looking at practically how to drink enough water. But now, back to coffee. Okay, number 7, I need to go grab again, and it is my nightly magnesium supplement. Now, we just recently got this like pill box, which I have to admit, I just hate the way it looks, but it is very handy because there's so many times where at the end of the night, I'll ask Trevor, wait, did I already take my magnesium? I can't remember. And then like I end up not taking it because it's better to not overdose on taking magnesium because that can have some pretty serious side effects. So Trevor got these like little pill boxes literally like just the other day. He pre-packages them out and then he puts both of our magnesiums in here, so I'll never have to question if I already took it. But the reason why magnesium has been such a game changer for me is, again, going back to sleep as well as muscle recovery. I have just seen so much, especially from a muscle recovery and from an anxiety perspective, how important quality sleep really is. When I don't get quality sleep, when I get more of that light sleep, which my Fitbit was telling me when that was happening, I have noticed that my anxiety levels absolutely skyrocket the next day. And that is just not a fun feeling. It's not enjoyable. It just feels like the world is crushing in on you. And it is just like a literal night and day difference when I get good sleep. When I get good sleep, I just don't really have anxiety at all. And I've done a lot of things to help perfect my sleep schedule over the years, but one of them is incorporating a magnesium supplement, because magnesium can help to naturally raise our melatonin hormones. Let me rephrase that. Melatonin, which is our sleep hormone that helps us get that high quality, deep, restorative sleep. Not to mention, I've especially noticed that when I get just absolutely terrible sleep, that my muscle recovery the next day, I feel like physically ill from the lack of muscle recovery. This just happened to me like the other day. I had a really intense Pilates class and it was more difficult. And then that night, Jack, our newborn, just like gave us that perfect, like every 1 hour newborn sleep. If you can't tell, I'm being absolutely sarcastic. It was horrible. But as a result, I literally the next day not only had crippling anxiety, but I just felt like all of my muscles were achy and flu-like. And it's because I had that harder workout and then I didn't get the quality sleep. So my muscles weren't able to recover overnight and they were just in this state of just breaking down and not able to rebuild. So having that nightly magnesium before bed has also been a game changer to at least optimize as much as I can. Okay, the 8th is lifting heavier weights. Now, like I mentioned, my fitness routine started back in high school, but it was more cardio based. I was doing things like running and swimming and cycling. And then I was doing some light resistance training because my chiropractor dad told me I should. But it wasn't until just a few years ago that I started to actually lift heavier weights and to really challenge my body. Before, I was using things just like bands and free weights. I didn't really use much higher than like 8-pound weights. So I wasn't ever really challenging my body. And again, as a result, I wasn't really seeing the body transformation that I wanted. I wanted to feel stronger. I wanted to actually see some tone. And before, I just wasn't seeing that. I was kind of just plateaued at this like skinny state. Now I've been using the squat rack. I've been doing things like deadlifts and presses, and I do those a few times a week while also making sure that I'm actually getting muscle recovery and fueling my body properly with the protein. But as a result, I've noticed like a complete body transformation. I first noticed this after having my daughter Sage, when I really focused on having higher strength training that I'm adding into my routine and really challenging myself with the weights. And I just felt like I looked fit then. Like, I'm currently working my way back to that right now because I am postpartum, but I felt like I looked better then. I looked more fit and toned then than I ever did in my 20s, which obviously from an aesthetic perspective, that was key, but also just I felt strong, and it's so much better for our long-term health, for helping to prevent osteoporosis and a lot of other blood sugar control benefits. But that also takes me to number 9 as a brand new addition, and that's been having Pilates that I've been doing like 1 to 2 times per week as well. So that might seem like completely opposite to doing something like heavy strength training, but they've really complemented each other because I get that heavier strength training, the real toning benefits of including strength training, but I've always been really bad at adding in core workouts, which meant that like during my first pregnancy, I ended up throwing out my back so badly. It actually hurt worse than the labor itself. So it's because of that experience I realized I really need to focus on my core. And especially post-pregnancy, one thing for me that I have noticed, I get this like, let me see if I can show you. I have like this, you can see right there. So that's actually not like belly fat. It's actually like my abdominal muscles just pooching out a little bit from pregnancy. And so one thing I'm hoping is that by continuing to do these core training, especially like that deep core training with Pilates, it will help to heal that as well. Okay, number 10 is using creatine. This also was an absolute game changer ever since becoming a mom. A lot of people will take creatine for the exercise benefits, which it definitely did contribute to helping to see better workout performance. But the reason why I took creatine was because I had such a bad case of mom brain after having my first baby. Like, I just could not connect words from my brain to my mouth. It was troubling. And especially now where the sleep deprivation stage is lasting a little bit longer than it did with my first baby, creatine has really helped with all of those things because it essentially helps to provide energy to your brain as well as to your muscles. And so it can help to perform in a sleep deprived state. It can also help with just forming those connections again from your brain to your mouth, which I am still like kind of struggling with, but that's the sleep deprivation. Now, when I went back and watched that 10 healthy habits from 2018, there were actually so many like great little nuggets of information that I sort of honestly like forgot about because they are just so part of my routine now that I forgot that they were ever habits that I didn't have in the first place. If you guys want to check that one out, you can find it with this video next. Also, if you're new to my channel and you love this science-backed and delicious information, make sure you subscribe right here. Come out new videos every Tuesday and Thursday. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video.